welcome everybody. This is the Culture Works live stream series brought to you live and in color by, well, the Culture Works. I'm Chester Elton, and with me is my dear friend and co-author, Adrian Gostick. Thanks for taking some time today to spend a couple of minutes with us to talk about some really interesting issues in the workplace. You know, Adrian and I have been studying culture and leadership and teams for a long time now. That's when you get older. You just say a long time. You
Yeah, I
don't
think
give
it's around 112 years, but yeah, go ahead.
Roosevelt was president, I think, when we started doing this. Anyway, Adrian, as many of you know, writes for Forbes magazine and writes wonderful articles. If you don't follow him on Forbes, please sign up today. Anyway, he talked about unlocking greater fulfillment in your career with one powerful insight. Now, that's a high bar, Adrian, that you're going to get fulfillment in your career by doing one more thing. So I challenge you. Tell us, Mr. Gostick, what is that one thing?
No, you got me. Now, and as you and I, we do a lot of executive coaching, and a lot of leaders, especially around this time of year, a lot of us around this time, we're making resolutions, right? And very few of us are thinking, I want to live in the moment. Instead, we're thinking of all the achievements we want to accomplish. And our mentor, Marshall Goldsmith, talks about this, right? We get so wrapped up with achievement, we forget to focus in on what we really want to do. And so this really is a story about living in the now, living in the moment. Equally important to where we're going is how we get there. And, are we having an enriching life right now?
Yeah, you mentioned in your article that there literally could be dozens of such moments every day that we just blow by because we're so focused on that promotion or looking good or being the smartest person in the room, all those things, all those traps that we get caught in all the time, right? So how do you go about doing that? Because it is easy, right, to get caught up with the career and forget to enjoy those simple moments every day. So put us in that mindset.
Yeah, I love that. And I quote the poet Mary Oliver in here, who wrote instructions for living a life. Pay attention, be astonished, tell about it. And you and I, we put together a gratitude journal recently, called the Gratitude Habit. And
there it is. Oh my gosh.
And this isn't a plug for that, though. You might get a few dozen copies for Christmas gifts or holiday gifts. But isn't that what we're supposed to be doing, is paying attention to all the wonderful things that happen in our lives? And, a lot of times we're going through really tough things. Maybe you've lost somebody you love this past year. Maybe you've had a setback in your career. Maybe, something big has happened. And it's so easy to fall down onto woe is me. I do it. We all do it. And yet the happiest people, as we know, Chess, they focus in on the tender mercies, the helpers, all the people who are lifting them, all the things that there is around to be grateful for.
Yeah, I love that idea. Pay attention, be astonished. So I read your article and I went for my little morning walk, and I'm heading down to a park that's not too far from us. And this giant flock of Canadian geese was flying by in the V formation,
Yeah.
And I thought, boy, it's been a long time since I've seen that. And they're honking. And I thought, isn't that fabulous? A moment of astonishment.
Yeah.
And I had a client years ago, and that was their symbol for their achievement, that the geese honk to encourage the lead goose who's breaking the air, right? Everybody's drafting off that lead goose, and then they rotate. All these things came to mind. I thought, you know what? Isn't that remarkable that these geese have been flying north and south for centuries, and there they are in my neighborhood, just flying by. I thought it was.
That's so funny you thought that, because I heard geese flying over last night, and I thought, what are you guys still doing here? Like, I'm in Park City. Like, you guys should be south by now. But yeah,
shouldn't you be in Miami already? Yeah, exactly. Well, it's really interesting. You also have a wonderful quote here from Living in the Moment from Oprah Winfrey. She says, I feel blessed to have the life I'm living. Several times a day, I look around in awe of how someone like me got to where I am. Each day, I enhance and expand the material goodness and grace I've received by connecting to the deeper presence within everything that's alive. Wow.
Yeah. Isn't that great? Because when you think of Oprah, we've studied Oprah before. We've written about her in one of our books, and I think it was Leading with Gratitude. And when you think of Oprah, she was never really a hard-hitting news journalist, had this credentials. She wasn't a comedian who made good. What was her strength is just she was just so darn genuine, and she could bring people out because of her genuineness. And how do you do that? You're just present in the moment. You are one of the best people on stage in front of an audience, and you're not reciting off memorized lines. You're reacting to many times what's going on in the audience. I remember being on stage with you once, and we were pretty far back from the audience, and then they were enjoying it, but they weren't really into it. And you said, come on. And we got off the stage and we walked among them. And all of a sudden, everybody, and I would just notice how present you were to see what they needed at that moment. It was a really cool moment.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you for that. It's always fun to present with you, by the way. We don't do it enough.
No.
If our booker Christy is listening, we never do that enough. Anyway, it is interesting to me that again, we talk about Marshall Goldsmith a lot because he's had such a big impact on us. This idea of setting goals every day, and he encouraged me, and I've got this little spreadsheet of all the things that I hope to do well every day. And one of them is be engaged, and one of them is be happy. And I added to it, did I lift up a stranger today? Like a random act of kindness. And it's funny to say, well, you've got to write that down. I go, well, yeah, it really does reinforce. And at the end of every day, I've got to put a red, yellow, or green square in there. And it is interesting to me that when you look around, there are lots of people working hard all around you. I love, brightening the waitress's day at the local diner. I live in New Jersey. There's diners everywhere. And these diner waitresses, I mean, they work hard, and it's interesting. Rarely do people really take a minute and say, hey, how you doing? And add a little light to their day. So it is hard to do, though, Adrian. I mean,
yeah.
We're talking about when achievement is your only goal, you miss so much along the way. So we've had executives that carve out time during the day. They'll block out an hour, or they'll block out a day of the week or something. Talk about some of those best practices, because I know you've talked to a lot of executives about that.
I think it was started with Marcus Aurelius, the great Roman leader who said he found time every day to just contemplate. And a philosopher, leader by any measure. How often do we do this? And what, especially this time of year, we have a little bit more time. Are we contemplating where our careers are going, where our families are going, what our mission is, what our values are? Are we just fumbling through life? It's amazing how often you and I start working with a senior leader and we say, okay, great. Tell me about your leadership brand. They say, well, what do you mean? Well, tell me about your mission, your purpose, your values. They go, yeah, well, and they'll ramble for a while, but they haven't really solidified it. I mean, every meeting with a potential employee, they should be talking about, well, this is who I am. Do we click? They should be really clear with that. And that's kind of the idea, is how do we live in the present? It's knowing who we are and being really clear about who we are as we present ourselves to others.
Yeah. It is interesting you bring that up. What's your leadership brand? An executive I was coaching, I said, look, what do you want to be? How do you want to be remembered? That hard hitting, executive, and she, beat the crap out of everybody along the way. I always loved the admonition of the 7 Habits guru.
Stephen Covey, of course.
Stephen Covey, that you'll remember and I won't, where he said, what do you want people to say at your wake? What do you want to have them put on your tombstone? I think if on our tombstones they said, man, those guys wrote a lot of books, we would be disappointed. We'd rather have them say, cared about people, was a good friend, was a good father, was a good neighbor. And so it is interesting. For me, it's oddly enough, I really do like to write down the things that I want to accomplish each day and kind of check them off. And that means one kind act a day. That's important to me. And take a moment. A lot of people are into meditation.
Yeah.
And the spiritual parts of their lives. I'm a big fan of that as well. What would you advise people to connect with their spiritual side?
Well, and this is really, you think of any religion in the world, gratitude is part of that religion. It doesn't matter if you follow Islam, you're Jewish, you're Christian, you're Buddhist, whatever religion you follow. If you do, there is a practice of gratitude. So it goes back thousands and thousands of years. It is part of being a spiritual person. And so what we find is that we reckon, and there's science behind this as well. We talk about in the article, is every day as we recognize the blessings that we have, or the beauty around us, or the small miracles that are happening in our lives, we start to combat the negative thought patterns that we can ruminate on, and we all get stuck in those patterns of rumination, right?
Yeah.
So daily gratitude has been shown to release dopamine in our minds, serotonin, which creates those neurotransmitters that can improve our mood and decrease our stress. So there is a spiritual side to this, but there's also a scientific side. Gratitude is one of those few things that connects science and spirituality. It should be part of our lives, and yet it's something that we all tend to forget when we get either busy or down on ourselves.
Yeah, in that you talked about creating a positive feedback loop, and I love that. Just recently in a coaching session, we were talking to my executive and saying, "Hey, make your inner voice your best friend."
Right.
I love that comment. And he says, "Oh yeah," he says, "Listen, I say things to myself that I would never say to anybody else. I would never be that cruel." And yet we are that way with ourselves. So that positive feedback loop, those little things every day. And I am a big fan of, look, find the time. You can't make time. Everybody gets 24 hours. Find the time, whether it's first thing in the morning, that last thing at night. In our little gratitude journal, there's a little morning practice and an evening practice. Start your day and end your day in gratitude. In our book, Anxiety at Work, 8 strategies, that 8th strategy. Take time to look around, as Oprah Winfrey says. Be in awe. Think of all the wonderful people that have helped you get to where you are today. I do really want to just wrap up because we're in the home stretch here, Adrian. I love the fact that the big finish to your article was that you quoted me.
Of course. I always quote you.
And why wouldn't you? Right? As my granddaughter would say, why wouldn't you, pop up? I love this. Celebrate small wins. They provide the energy and the momentum to achieve larger goals. And then you wrap up and say, while our happiness can't be based on only contemplating big things in life, being grateful for small successes can inevitably fuel our overall motivation and encourage us towards bigger and better achievements in the future. And that's not a bad thing either. I love the way you wrap that up. So enjoy the little things in life. Appreciate the people around you. Take a minute, meditate, say your prayers, read your scriptures, whatever it is that you do to connect with not just the now, connect with the spiritual. Often we have executives that say, I make sure I go for a walk every day or exercise every day. Check all those boxes. So is it fair to say, Adrian, that that's that one powerful insight that you're giving executives in your wonderful article?
It really is. It's such a great insight. And it's funny, when I thought, I'm going to go find a Chester quote. I'll go to Chat GPT, and the quotes I was getting weren't you. And I was going, where are these quotes from? And I asked Chat GPT, and it told me, actually, I can't quote Chester because all of his books are copyrighted. So I'm kind of making it up. It's like, what? So I actually had to go back into our real book and take the quote from there. But yeah, that's exactly right. That's, it's the happiness can't just be from these big things in life, the promotions or the raises. They come so infrequently. There's happy things that are happening to us every day. You want a happier career, a happier life, look for those. That's what we try to help our, the people we're coaching. And that's our message for today.
Absolutely. And one of the things that makes me happy is spending time with my good friend and co-author, Adrian Gostick. Hey, have happy holidays, Merry Christmas, Happy Hanukkah, whatever it is you celebrate. Thanks for spending some time with us. And do that one thing. Be grateful. Be happy. Make it a habit. Cheers.
Thanks, everyone.